Yes, my friends, here we are, another episode of the Tyler Hill podcast. I have my friend Cameron Johnson here today. We've been friends on the internet for quite some time. We are kindred spirits in some ways and really different in others, and it all belongs. I'm excited to go there to learn from this contemplative, diverse in music taste, especially, which I love. I can't wait to talk about music with you, Cameron. Um, what a stud. I'm so excited to have him here. Cameron, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. What before we get going here, we obviously all of us we're more than what we do. We're more than our jobs. We're more than what we believe even, and we'll talk about all of that. Let's say, Cameron, you have a couple $100, you have a couple hours, maybe even a whole day. What are you doing with some free time? The world is at your disposal. You get to do what brings you joy, what makes you smile. Let us into your world when it comes to joy for a few minutes.
Joy. I'm a little nerdy, man. So all of the nerdy things bring me joy. Like I love I love used bookstores.
Yep.
Like you put me in one of them, I get lost for hours.
Yeah.
Um, Comic books.
Mm.
I'm really into music. So for a while I was like collecting like records and stuff like that.
Yep.
Um I'm a nature guy. I love the outdoors. So like a good hiking trail, nature preserve, stuff like that. We got plenty of those here in Georgia.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I love art. So I'm really big on museums and stuff like that. So
Mm.
yeah, just
I
just time where I can get to wander. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I do. I can remember my first time being in Atlanta, and like my perception was always just it's just city. And it's like you just sneeze and all of a sudden you're in all these trees. And it was just like my perception from like TV and stuff was like entirely wrong in terms
Yeah.
of like the nature that exists there. I just had no idea, you know.
Yeah, man. I think what they call it, the land of a thousand trees, land of a
Yeah.
million trees. I'm not originally from here, but I've been here long enough.
Yep.
But yeah, it's beautiful, especially this time of year. Late spring, kind of teetering on summertime. There's lots of like lush greenery everywhere. Birds are chirping. You got chipmunks and squirrels running around, so it's beautiful.
So good. You know what else is like that? Another place is New York. It's
New
like you
York.
get to New Jersey and they called New Jersey the Garden State. And it's like
Yeah.
you go through a tunnel and you're in New Jersey and it's like you have this city and then it's just gorgeous. It's just so many little Easter eggs like that.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me about comic books. What comic books you love? What
So
brings you life there?
comic books. I was like a casual comic book collector as a kid and still fairly so, like casually. But one comic book and one character in particular that's been grabbing my attention lately has been Howard the Duck.
Okay.
Like, yeah, Howard the Duck is extremely OP and like overpowered in Marvel character lore. Just like a kind of like a like curmudgeon type that gets in all type of hijinks and stuff like that, but drops some like jewels of wisdom and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So
Love
it was
that.
like cheesy movie that came out in the 80s.
Okay.
But it doesn't really do the character justice. It's a really interesting. There's this one uh there's this one comic book where he has this conversation with God in a bar, and it's really profound.
Wow.
So I talk about that all the time. Yeah, so Howard the Duck is he's been grabbing my attention lately.
Noted, and we'll look that up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What has that always been part of you, like that nerd side,
Oh
that
yeah.
sort of like was that embraced, by the people who formed you as you grew up? Was that supported, or is that something you had to discover as you got older?
I think it was a little bit of both. Like it was supported by the people around me. Um and kind of something that I grew into as an adult as well
Yeah.
and learned to appreciate.
Yeah.
Um Yeah, it's kind of just what makes you you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just learning to embrace who you are, who you
Yeah.
become, and all of those things. And so, yeah, my mom was always big on individuality.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I learned that at an early age, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, it was always, and she did things to kind of like encourage it, like, you know, talk to her about all my nerdy things, and she didn't really understand what was going on, but she kind of encouraged me in all of it. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What so you said you're not originally from Atlanta. Where were or sorry, Georgia. What town are you in right now?
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta.
You are in Atlanta.
Hmm.
What where would you consider home? Would you consider Atlanta home now? Or what's the place that like formed you? Where would you consider home to be?
So I would consider home. Originally, I'm from Orlando, Florida. And so spent most of my years there.
Okay.
And kind of bounced around a little bit. We moved to Dallas, Texas, so I kind of consider that home away from home. But I feel like where I kind of come into my own for maybe like the last 9 years, almost 10 years almost, has been Atlanta.
Yeah.
Moved out here for grad school, and I kind of just been here
Mm,
ever since. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Uh, just blossomed into the man that I am here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. So that would be the place where the flower bloomed.
yeah, for sure, for sure. It's
Yeah.
a really interesting place. Like really, really interesting place. Like you can find everything here, all the different types of walks of life. Um, There's like a bamboo forest here, which is wild, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, uh, things like that. Lots of, they're very, kind of like quirky parts of town, and you get directly in the city. You got the city life and lots of nightlife and stuff like that, but also just like things that kind of encourage my like nerdy sensibilities
I love
too.
that.
So all of that.
So you mentioned Cameron that like you started to bloom or blossom
Hmm.
there in Atlanta. Would you be willing to let us into a little bit of your story? Like who was Cameron before then? Tell me maybe a little bit about that journey from a young boy, mom encouraging the nerdy stuff into becoming who you are. What about Atlanta made you bloom the way you did?
Yeah.
And who did you bloom into? Like, let us into, for those of you who have never heard about you, a little bit into that story.
Yeah. So from life for me began in Orlando, Florida. Came from a pretty big family. My mom, she's like my superwoman. She's
Mm,
everything for me. Um, like I'm like the second to last of six children. So
wow.
a pretty big family. Um, and growing up, faith was just like a integral part of my childhood. And one of those things that I always heard, that I grew up in very like charismatic circles. So what's called like the gift of the word of knowledge and the gift of prophecy has always been kind of just like a part of my childhood. So I
Yep.
grew up hearing there's a calling on your life and you're gonna grow up to be a preacher. You got like an anointing on your life. You're gonna be a and so growing
Hmm.
up I held all of that, you know what I mean? And around about maybe I was active in youth ministry all up and through my like teens and things like that. Um I was like writing plays and, really kind of just like very, very much involved
Yep.
in church. And I was actually really into music. I was even rapping at one point, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Preaching and all of that type of stuff like at an early age. And then around after high school, I ended up graduating and moved to Dallas, Texas, and was kind of just wondering what's the next step. I heard all of these things about, being called and all of that type of stuff. And I was still trying to figure out what that meant.
Mm,
And so spent about a year in Dallas after I graduated high school. And shortly after that, like I ended up coming to Atlanta, um, and I started seminary.
mm.
And so, that was a really, really interesting ride and some of the best years of my life, actually. Learned a lot, was challenged a lot.
Wow.
Um, ended up, I left this part out, but like in college, I guess what set me on like the contemplative path, I ended up, discovering the work of Howard Thurman. And so I was like,
Yes.
man, who is this guy? He was just like, kind of had this like enchanting effect on me, and I didn't know why. And found out that he was a Florida boy like I was. You know what I
Interesting. I
mean?
didn't know that.
Yeah, he actually I went to college in his hometown.
Whoa.
Yeah, so being able to see the things that he talks about in his autobiography with Head and Heart, getting to go to the Halifax River, you know what I mean, where he was baptized. His childhood home is actually still in Daytona.
Interesting.
So visiting there, and yeah, that kind of just set me on this contemplative path. I've always kind of just been like a very silent child,
Mm,
uh, very silent, very much an introvert, very much having like this deep, deep inner life as a kid.
mm.
Big imagination, all of that type of stuff. And so I guess I saw a lot of, not that I'm Howard Thurman in any stretch of the imagination, but I saw a lot of myself
Yes. Yes.
in him. And so, just in terms of, as he describes his like childhood and just being a black man from Florida,
Yep.
um, and yeah, that kind of just like learning his work, it kind of led me to other like mystical writers. But I think I resonated with him the most because he was a black man, and that
Yep.
it was kind of hard to find other people that looked like me in the
Yes.
contemplative world. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, that kind of I think that was one of those things that kind of pushed me to
Mm.
further my theological education too.
Yep.
And so, you know, 3 years in seminary,
Mm.
and then afterwards, I graduated from seminary in 2019. After that, the pandemic happened.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, so I'm thinking I'm gonna like take on the world, and I'm starting to think about ordination and all of this type of stuff.
Yep.
And then boom, the world shuts down.
Yep.
So I'm like, man, what am I doing with my life? And then all of a sudden, like I just started um I just started crossing paths with so many different people.
Mm.
Um started Tia Norman, who was a big, big, big influence, a big inspiration. People like Danny Prada. Um we have like Florida
I
connections
I
too.
just interviewed him last week.
Yeah, me and Danny are we have some connections like even before what like way back. Um
Cool.
yeah. Yeah, and just so many different people, and which led to last year the I was invited to the first BIPOC centering prayer retreat,
Cool.
and I just met so many dope people.
Yes.
And yeah, which ended up meeting Josue Perea there,
Mm.
and that's where we recently held like a kind of like a digital meditation space um called Meditation is a Must, and we did some musica divina with the work of Kendrick Lamar. And
Yes.
so yeah, that's kind of just like a snapshot of just my story. It's been a wild ride, and with God being at the center,
Yes.
connecting all of the dots, you know.
Man, there's so many rivers I want to float down.
Yeah.
So much good stuff here. Um, I guess like let's start with this. Like you talked about growing up in these more charismatic spaces. Then you
Mm-hmm.
discover Howard Thurman.
Mm-hmm.
Like tell me about like what was that bridge like, that process, like I mean of discovering some more of these contemplative works, finding yourself in his work in so many ways,
Mm-hmm.
as that relates to the juxtaposition of growing up in more charismatic environments.
Yeah.
What was that journey like for you? Was it difficult? Was it hard? What did you leave behind? What did you keep?
Mm-hmm.
What was that journey like for you?
Honestly, I think that journey began around the time I discovered his work. There was I was just dealing with like the stress of being a college student,
Hmm.
and I was living off campus, and I just had so much going on. I was very, very busy, and I was like, man, I needed a place to rest, and I didn't have a car. And I was on campus for so long and having classes, and I was stressed out, and so many things were happening in my personal life. I was like a youth minister at that time, and there was this, I discovered through a friend that there was this prayer room, like this prayer and meditation room on campus. And honestly, I would just use it to take naps in there.
Yeah,
I would
love
use
it.
it to take naps. But eventually I started reading some of the material in there about like prayer and things like that. And that kind of led me into like a silent prayer practice. It
Wow.
was kind of because in circles that I grew up in, anything dealing with like meditation was considered evil. Like
Yep.
anything that was remotely considered Eastern with quote marks.
Yep.
Um it was anything involving like Eastern spirituality, I guess, with like when considering like meditation or anything like that was considered it
Yep.
wasn't cool.
Oh
So
yeah, I know.
uh I think it just
Where did Jesus come from, by the way? Just
exactly.
kidding.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
kidding.
right. Right. But yeah, so um that was kind of just like the jumping off point of
Yes.
me kind of just discovering my own faith.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And building on the foundation that was given to me at home.
Mhm.
People like my grandmother, my mother, who and my older brothers and sisters who kind of just like instilled a deep sense of faith in me. I grew up in church, so I was always in church, but I think around that time I was able to make my faith my own.
Yes.
And I leaned into where I felt like God was calling me, or I felt like the Spirit was calling me. And it felt like I was affirmed in the fact that I felt like a tug and I didn't know where it was coming from, but I followed it and it led me to a place where I was affirmed in it. Um and it was let me know that it was okay if my faith didn't look like my mom's or my grandmother's. Although it's still very much a part of me. Like I'm very much a product of,
Yes.
you that charismatic church. Like
Mhm.
it's still embedded in me. But I think, I think my spirituality is like a collage. You know what I mean? So I'm always adding different pieces to the scrapbook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then I was also very much encouraged by the people that I was around. I was a part of this friend group in college, and we kind of sharpened each other. We pushed each other. We kind of um deconstructed together. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So that was kind of like the dropping off point for me. Um, and
So
I'll
can
go
I ask
ahead.
you? I'd love to ask you a question there. Like,
Yeah.
so when a lot of people deconstruct and they come
Hmm.
from a more evangelical or charismatic environment, they find Richard Rohr, they read Merton, they're, doing their thing. They find this more contemplative way. There's oftentimes, at least I find this in my office as a spiritual director,
Hmm.
there's kind of a rebellion against the old ways.
Yeah.
Like we've got to completely abandon it. It's all the enemy,
Hmm.
like I can't even touch anything like the music. I'm not going to listen to nobody talk at me. I'm not like, but I heard about you as from you is an integration,
Yeah.
that you've been able to integrate the spirituality that formed you with this contemplative way without making it the enemy.
Right.
What would you say to someone who maybe grew up in an environment like you, a little bit more charismatic, maybe evangelical or Baptist in nature, and they find some new things that work?
Hmm.
Meditation works, the contemplative way works. How did you integrate that in a way where you didn't have to go to war with your mom's spirituality or your grandma's spirituality?
Yeah, I think there are times where even in that sometimes it's not always like a clean cut. Sometimes you learn. Sometimes it happens in phases. You kind of go through this rebellious stage where, anything dealing with how you were formed. Because also like a lot of sometimes, people may be dealing with some real life hurt that
Yeah.
comes from those circles too. And so you kind of want to disassociate yourself from anything that kind
Mhm.
of resembles that space. It's just a matter of growth and a matter of sometimes you have to reckon with those things that were
Mhm.
not helpful, not beneficial, and kind of, keep those things that were.
Yeah,
And so sometimes it's a process of trial and errors. Here a little is there a little. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
What's some of the things that you've kept?
Some of the things I've kept, I'm not gonna lie. You catch me on a good day, I still tune up. Like I still like hoop like a old Baptist preacher in my
I
car.
love it.
You know what I mean? So,
Uh-huh.
no, I love that. And
Mhm. Hmm.
really, really big fan of like old gospel music.
I
Like,
knew that was coming.
I love old gospel music. Like,
Yeah.
I'm talking about like old gospel music. Like,
Yeah.
there's like quartet groups, like gospel quartet groups, like the Canton Spirituals.
Okay.
I love that. I got an old soul, so like I love stuff like that, and I love gospel artists like Fred Hammond,
Mhm.
John P. Key, all of those type of things. Along with the music, I think you know, the background that I have in, charismatic spaces just taught me that to have an appreciation for how spirit moves, you
Mm.
know,
Yes.
and to really, really know that the spirit kind of goes where it will. It goes where it wants to. And um to move with the spirit, to be in tune with the spirit. And yeah, like a few other things. Like I love um the spaces that I grew up in taught me hospitality. You know what I
Yes.
mean? All of those things. And so,
Mhm.
like you said, it's a matter of integration for me. Just like I said, I want my faith to be kind of like almost like a what do you call that thing? I don't know, I'm drawing a blank. Um a passport, like all of the places that I've been, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Kind of just like
Wow.
stamped. Um yeah, so it's just a matter of integration for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So this particular place, your passport has been stamped. We've talked a little bit. We've touched on contemplation, the kind of contemplative way. Um, I think you're such a great teacher, and you really are a voice that's, I think, needs to be heard more and is starting to. I'm seeing your face pop up around Instagram from time to time. Give us just a little bit of an introduction into the contemplative way, this new sort of spirituality you've been formed at this stop on your spiritual journey. Teach us just kind of like your little 101 on what it is. What does that look like? Why does it matter? Let us into that world a little bit, if you would.
Sure, I'll do the best I can. I think For me, it's a matter of deep listening to the spirit.
Mm,
Like I said, that's where I learned in my like formative years and growing up in church, like kind of sensing where the spirit is. It's a kind of being able to find God in all things, you know?
yep.
The contemplative life for me is is a centered life. Anything that brings you back to center. So many times we are pulled in so many different directions. Our nervous systems are so out of whack that we are reacting to life rather than living it fully. And I think the contemplative life is a life that is centered and built around honoring God in yourself. It's built around like the true self. Um, and so I try to live my life in that way. And try to live, and those practices help fine tune those contemplative practices of deep listening, of sitting with yourself, of seeing God in your neighbor.
Yes.
Um, yeah. Um,
What so practically, what does deep listening mean? What does it mean to sit with yourself? Are you just saying I just sit in a chair and not do anything for as long as possible? Like what does that look like for you? What does
yeah.
that mean?
Quite possibly. Like for me, it means being able to sit with yourself. It means being able to listen to the spirit inside of you.
Yes.
I used to
Yes.
have this idea that only people who were quote unquote Christians had the spirit of God in them. But nowadays, I believe that the spirit is the one that animates all things. You know what I mean?
Yes.
All people. And so, um, it's for me, it's about being able to hear the call of the spirit in oneself. And sometimes that's blocked by like so many different voices.
Mm.
Um, a story I always tell is about Howard Thurman. He was leaving a late night study session one night when he was in seminary in Rochester, New York, and he was going down the street and he in the wee hours in the morning and he heard the sound of like rushing water. And he would walk the same spot in the daytime and he didn't hear it. So he told his professor about it and he was like, I heard the sound. And he was like, yeah, I think he was like, it's a reservoir for the Erie Canal. And he was like, you can only hear it when the traffic stops. And so that's like a lot like our spiritual lives. We can only hear when
Mm.
the traffic stops. And so
Yes.
it's about developing that, sense of
Wow.
centering, so that you're able to, get in tune with the spirit in oneself and that you're able to not only hear it and see it in yourself, but hear it and see it in your neighbor as
Yes.
well. Yeah.
What So for you, Cameron, what ways in which do you remain centered? If it's about staying centered, being able to hear
Mhm.
the river underneath the road,
Mhm.
um, how do you animate a centered life in your story? You're a busy guy, you do important work, you teach, you educate yourself, you're a social worker. I mean, your life isn't not busy.
Yeah.
How do you stay centered in the midst of all of that?
So one of my main practices that I do is centering prayer. And that's kind of been like the practice that I learned while in college.
Hmm.
So reading a lot of Father Thomas Keating.
Yes.
So yeah, so centering prayer is one of those practices. Walking in nature, I love nature.
Yep.
Um, I love one of the things I've kind of just been doing a lot of is contemplation through music.
Yeah.
I'm a big jazz guy. I love jazz.
Hmm.
So all of these are ways that I'm able to kind of just still myself
Yes.
and listen.
So we'll get to the music in a minute. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Um, so the younger Tyler would say, but Cameron, that you're not reading scripture, you're not in church all day, you're just walking outside.
Yeah.
Like what? Like what do you mean you're centering on God? You're not reading the text, you're not memorizing verses,
Yeah.
You're not hooting and hollering in the you're only doing that in your car. You're not doing that on a walk. Um,
Mhm.
what would you say to that as like people who have evolved from kind of some of those first half spiritualities?
Yeah, for me, it's about being able to see God in both scripture and in nature. Um, I think one of the things that it's helpful to form a deep
Mhm.
listening ear is getting out of binary thinking, you know, like God is here, God is not there. And I think we'd be surprised to find a lot of the places that we don't believe that spirit actually is. Um, and so yes, I still love the Bible. I also love poetry. I love reading Hafez. I love reading Rumi. I love reading
Hmm.
so I use those to center myself as well.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
Hmm.
love some jazz. I love Sun Ra. I love Thelonious Monk. I love John Coltrane. And so if we let these things be um our kind of like anchor too, they also will lead us to the gateway like deep inside of ourselves where
Yes.
God is.
Mm, so good.
Yeah.
Um, ugh, we could end it right there. I think, man, that's so good. Um, so we hear about the contemplative way, sitting in silence, going on walks, our own inner life.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes the accusation would be that's just so selfish. You're not caring about the other. And I've heard you note on this. That's why I want to go there. Like the contemplative life, just monks just stay in their monasteries, or you're just doing centering prayer all day. Like, what about justice? What about your neighbor? What about, the overflow? Like, how does this inner world, this like hyper focus on centering on God within,
Yeah.
translate into not just being about me, but actually being something that is made manifest around me in my neighborhood, or
Hmm.
across the street, or in issues of injustice.
Yeah. I think any type of centering or contemplation should always I think it may have been Father Roy that said that. Don't quote me, I may be wrong, but it should always lead you to direct action, you
Yeah.
know? When you're aware of when you're still enough, are aware of the suffering inside of yourself. And being aware of that suffering inside of yourself, you also become aware of it inside other people, inside your neighbor. You you
Yep.
you see it, you know? And so um Howard Thurman was one that he was like, it's my job to remove the things that get in the way of my neighbor's direct experience of God as well. You know what I mean? And I think that's how we have to
Wow.
be, um, because we are all like connected. We're connected. I am you and you are me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so I can't, you know, have this deep spiritual life and ignore your suffering as well. You know what I mean? So I think contemplation should always lead to action. True contemplation
Yep.
should lead us to action because I think that the spirit will always illuminate the suffering of your
Yes.
neighbor to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think of it sometimes as breath. It's like if we only breathe in, like
Right,
we won't stay awake for very long.
right, exactly.
And it
Exactly.
but also if we only breathe out, the same, we won't be awake. Nobody will be served or loved or, liberated if we're only breathing out. And
Hmm.
many of the liberators breathed out to a degree that their inner world suffered.
Right, right.
And I think, there's a lot to be learned, I think, from the contemplatives and vice versa, of saying how do we do both to be
Right.
able to liberate for the long haul really does
Hmm.
require, I think, a really radical contemplative stance.
For sure, for sure. I forgot where I got this quote too. I always have these quotes floating around in my
Me too.
mind,
I
but I
get
always
it.
But it's like I think it may have been Merton who said this. If not, I apologize to whoever this quote is from. But it's the you don't meditate, you don't, and I'm paraphrasing, you don't meditate, you don't center to glow, quote unquote, but you use it to like enlighten other people, you know what I mean, to help others glow, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So your job is not to be like sitting on a mountain just by yourself, radiating this divine light, but you know what I mean, helping others to shine, helping others to get rid of those things that block the divine light inside of them as well. Yeah.
What does that look like, Cameron, in your life? What are some of the ways in which your light shines to others? What does some of your outward work look like? What makes you come alive as you take this thing that you've cultivated inside your interior castle? How does that spill out into the world around you?
Yeah, I think it spills out in I love leading spiritual practice.
Hmm.
So like I said, Perea and I we led a Musica Divina, which is a centering practice through music with the lyrics of Kendrick Lamar. And prior to that, I've done a lot of work with, leading centering prayer.
Yep.
So those are the things that really, really kind of give me that drive to kind of, just help people center themselves and rest their
Yep.
nervous systems and help them to experience the divine in deep, meaningful ways.
Yep.
Um, I during the day I'm a social worker, so I see, um spirit moving through me in that way. Um
Yes.
and honestly, through laughter, I'm a jokester, so I love joking. And I don't think it has to be, super deep and heavy all of the time. Sometimes it could just be in how you show up in the world, you know what I
Yep.
mean? So I
Okay,
love to
I'm
make people's
I'm
day a
gonna
little bit
take us
brighter.
on one very quick side quest, and we'll
Yeah.
keep getting. Okay, so you just talked about humor. You're talking about soul music. What do you think of Kevin Hart's joke about Kirk Franklin the other day? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, that
I thought
was
it was fun. I thought it was hilarious.
it was so funny, dude. Oh, it blessed me.
Oh
Uh,
man, I could tell Kirk was a little bit embarrassed, so I kind of felt for him there, but like I am not gonna lie, I'm silly, so I thought it was pretty funny.
oh, I loved it so much, man. Um, for those so my audience is like especially spiritually is all over the map. I have Baptist
hmm
roots. I've been charismatic. I'm in this contemplative space a lot now.
hmm
Give us and I'm leading the cart before the horse to get us to the Musica Divina. But first of all, could you give us an intro into centering prayer? You've mentioned that a little bit. Off camera, I have Keating right here. Father
Yeah.
Thomas Keating. What is centering prayer? And then maybe lead us into that other practice, Lectio, Musica Divina, and we'll dive in and start talking music. But
Yeah.
just give us a quick little snapshot into what those practices actually look like for people who have not really engaged in the specifics of those practices.
Yeah. So centering prayer is a prayer, to a form of silent prayer that was popularized by in the late 60s, 70s, through Thomas Keating, Father Thomas Keating, and a few other monks at the time. And it was formed as a way to kind of reach back into the church's rich history in silent prayer. Because at that time, transcendental meditation and things were like that were becoming very, very popular. And so it's a so centering prayer isn't about a lot of people kind of can think that it's about the main purpose is to about clearing your mind, and that's not really it. It's about allowing thoughts to come, but not latching on to them, and
Yes. Oh,
allowing them to pass. Um, yeah, and so it Father Keating has a story about
mm,
this nun coming to him and said, Father Keaton, this is terrible. I've been, sitting here for the last 20 minutes and I've had 1,000 different thoughts. And he was like, oh, how lovely. It's 1,000 different times to return back to God. And I thought that was like very, very touching, because I think anybody who's practiced centering prayer can relate. It's like,
Yes.
oh man, this is terrible. I just sat here and just thought about 30 different things in the last 2 minutes. But the return is like the grounding thing, right? It's the
Yes.
return, it's the anchoring on this sacred word or sacred breath.
Yes.
So it's usually a 20-minute period of um sitting in silence or silent prayer, and not really fighting thoughts, but allowing them to come. And when you find yourself focused on any thought or sensation or feeling or emotion, returning back to us that sacred word, and allowing the thoughts to pass, allowing
Yes.
the boats to go
Yes.
over your head without jumping in them.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Um, so then what's Lectio in its way, and tell us especially about Musica.
So Lectio is a form of prayer that is centered. There are different forms. So there's Lectio Divina, which is prayer centered around like it's sacred reading.
Mhm.
So a passage of scripture, a passage of poetry, and allowing yourself to read it, to contemplate over it, to meditate over it, and then to pray,
Mhm.
and just, sit in silence. Um, Music of Divina is the same thing, but with music essentially,
Yep.
um, which is really, really cool because I'm a big music guy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's you know, focusing on a certain lyric, and doing that same thing, contemplating on it, meditating on it, sitting in silence, praying on
Yep.
it. Yeah.
So you do this practice with music from Kendrick. You
Hmm.
said you love jazz, so my assumption is that To Pimp a Butterfly would be your favorite Kendrick album. Am I off base on that with just all the jazz drumming and all of that?
Yeah.
Like, what's your favorite
It,
album?
it was it's definitely up there, and up until recently I would have said yes,
Okay.
but I'm not gonna lie. Mr. Morale has been like
Yeah.
growing on me. When it came out, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. When it came out, I was like, man, this is heavy. I wasn't in the place to kind of appreciate it.
Yes.
But like within the last year and a half, I've kind of been, going back to it. I'm like, man, this stuff is really, really good.
Yeah.
But I do love To Pimp a Butterfly, like
Yeah.
that album. I remember being in college, like I'm giving away a little bit of my age, but I brought I brought the CD when I was in college. I remember buying the CD.
So good.
Yeah.
So in this practice, I'd be curious what lyrics, what album really moved you in this practice when you guys were using music to find the sacredness within it. What lyrics or parts of some of his music really moved you or spoke to you?
Um, I would say around like that last verse when the person, so it's the song that we were covering was How Much a Dollar Cost. And essentially, the song is about Kendrick Lamar being in South Africa. He's
Yep.
at a gas station. He's really, on the tail end of his success of his first album. He's in South Africa. He comes across a person who lives outside, comes across a homeless person, and the person's asking for money, and they have this sort of conflict about it. And at the end, Kendrick discovers that that person is, in fact, God.
Yep.
And I think one of my favorite parts is that singing portion at the end, which I found to be really, really powerful. Um, those were actually the words of Ron Isley
Mm,
from the Isley Brothers. He says, "Shades of gray will never change if I condone. Give me space to right my wrongs." And for me, it's a song. Those couple bars are about reflection on one's life. You know what I mean? I think for me, the good life is a life lived in reflection on itself. You know what I mean?
yes.
And so, yeah, I think that part was really, really powerful for me. And just thinking about, all of the people that I cross on a daily basis and
Yep.
how many times that I failed to see the divine in them, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's really important.
What other I know you've already mentioned a bunch of artists. What other artists that have lyrics for you that move you in a deep way? Like what genres, what other artists?
Yeah, so genres, like I said, I'm really, really big on jazz.
Yeah.
Um, I really love Pink Floyd.
Nice.
I really love Pink Floyd. I think they're, very, very like gripping lyrics. Um, really, really big fan of Little Dragon. Prince is one of my all-time favorite
Yeah.
artists. And he I know a lot of people kind of just see the sensuality in his music, but his music kind of just like it is filled with like this deep spirituality.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So
I
Prince
love
for
that.
sure. Prince for sure.
I can
Yeah.
remember one time my wife and I we were in like South San Diego, like almost on the border. You could throw a rock and hit Mexico.
Yeah.
And we were in we were just in this like little taco shop and we were like I mean, we were the whitest thing there by miles. And and there's like a lowrider like hanging from the roof inside this little taco place and they were showing like all these Prince music videos. And my wife, just bless her heart, had no idea who Prince was. And she's just watching these videos and it was just like, what are they showing on the on the wall? And I was like, babe, he is so much more than that. I promise you. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh God, it blessed me, her little innocent heart there. Just watching these music videos just on repeat of Prince in this
Yeah.
taco place. Oh God, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
Okay, Kendrick, any other rappers that are just like on the top for you?
Earth Gang. I love Earth Gang. I'm in Atlanta, so I have to say Earth Gang.
Okay.
Um, JID. Um,
Hmm.
Mick Jenkins.
Okay.
All of these are I really appreciate I love all in rap and hip hop there are different subgenres, but I'm a really, really big fan of I appreciate all of them, but I'm a really big fan of like lyricists. So, and lyricists come in all shapes and sizes. Like I don't think there's one particular sound to lyricism, but I appreciate like good writing,
Yes. Hmm.
good writing, people who like take time and write, you know,
Hmm.
write things out right from their heart. So I appreciate that. One of the One of the albums that was just like deeply profound for me is it came out in the pandemic. So there's this duo from Atlanta, like I said, called Earth Gang. They're part of this collective called Spillage Village, and they got this album called Spilligion, like religion but spilligion.
Yes.
And man, it's some of the most beautiful songs with that cover like elements of like faith
Mm,
and all of these things, and I love it. I love it.
love that.
But my all-time like the apex for me
Yep.
um in hip hop is I'm a huge Outkast man.
Yes.
Love Outkast. Love
Yes.
Outkast. My all-time favorite musician, as much as I love Prince, I would have to give it to Stevie Wonder.
So good.
Another artist with like great lyrics and has like this deep sense of spirituality in his
Yes.
music. So
Uh, yeah, dude. I love like there's something about Andre 3000 like and I DM'd you the other day like I was just like, man, I just love him. Like music aside, just the energy and the vibe he gives off, like it
yeah,
makes me want to be myself.
yeah, for
You know,
sure.
like I don't want to be Andre 3000, but like
Yeah.
watching him exist
Hmm.
makes me want to express myself and be myself, you know?
Yeah.
And I just like there's something about just how he exists
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
makes me want to be me. It makes me want to be more of me.
Right.
It makes me care less about what other things. Just when I see a picture on Instagram, I'm just like, oh, I need to express myself more.
For sure. Yeah. And he's kind of been that for me as well. And for so many other people. Just there's this raw sense of individuality and
Yep.
artistry and being true to oneself,
Yeah. Yes.
which I love. And I think that's beautiful. And it's been cool to kind of just like grow from a child into an adult and see the ways that he's grown in his career. And he's just still the same guy, you know what I mean? Just the different eras of Andre 3000 has just been kind of cool to watch. He's been, and for me, I would say, I definitely see contemplative elements in Andre as well. Like, um, he was here in Atlanta doing, like free, like concerts. Like he'd pull up in like a shopping center
Yep.
and pull out the flute and
Nice.
start playing. He was just in the hospital in Grady Hospital, playing the flute for mothers with newborns and stuff like that. So I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
good. So good. Here's one out of left field because this guy also helps me be myself. How do you feel about Tyler, the Creator?
Oh yeah, I love Tyler. I love Tyler. Yeah, yeah. I really appreciate Tyler for pushing the art forward, you know.
Yep.
Um, I feel like, that the spirit is where like creativity is too. It's always on the move. And I feel like, artists like Tyler, artists like Andre are tapped into like this raw sense of creativity.
Yep.
Like Tyler's last album was so dope. You know what I mean?
That intro to Chromacopia, when he's like,
Yeah.
"You are the light, and don't let anyone dampen that light." Like it makes me want to
Yeah.
run through a brick wall, man.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And listening to him speak, I mean, oh man, I love Tyler.
yeah. Yeah, I think for me, Flower Boy, I don't know if you know Alex Lewis. He's like a writer out of Ohio.
Hmm.
Um, but I just was just interviewing him and we were both talking about, like he loves Tyler also. And I just like for me, Flower Boy, like it just like and that's his like coming out story and becoming himself, but it's just like, dude,
Yeah,
I weep at
yeah,
Flower Boy.
yeah.
And it's just so like I was just watching this thing too when he I think it was I think it was for Igor. He won a Grammy, and it's like half of that album is rock, and he was so pissed because it was a rap album, and he's like
Right.
he raps some and he screams and he's like, just because I'm black doesn't make this a rap album. And
Yeah,
like, because it's like, but he's not even a musician only. Like he's a filmmaker and he's just a creator.
a
And it's like
creator,
to
right?
just make him a musician, like, and Andre too. It's just not even fair. Which I
Hmm.
think is to say, and I appreciate this about you, and I know, like, is like you do the you're a contemplative teacher, yes, and then we just went deep on jazz and rap and hip hop and the subgenres and you're telling me about people I've never heard of and you're just quoting Thurman like you wrote the books and it's like we are not just one thing.
Yeah.
We are not just one thing and it's
Hmm.
like so often we just have to niche down so much for
Hmm.
business or for our brand and it's
Right.
like we are not just one thing.
Yeah, we live at the intersection of just like so many
Yeah.
identities, you know what I mean? So many interests.
Yeah.
And all of this, like I said about the passport. These are things that make us us. You know what I
Yes.
mean? We, all of the places that we've been, all of the people that we've encountered, all of the experiences that we've had
Yep.
are ingredients in the jambalaya that makes us us. you know?
Yes. Oh. So as we start to wrap up here, tell me like, okay, let's say somebody's listening here, Cameron, who only has one stamp in their passport. And they're like, something about that sounds appealing to me. Like, I don't think I want to leave my religion or I don't want to deconstruct. I'm scared of that word or, but like, what is, there might be more for me out there.
Hmm.
How
Hmm.
does somebody even start a journey of deepening or expanding their spiritual pursuits, or maybe finding a God that's more loving than they ever knew, kinder than they ever knew,
Hmm.
finding God in other people and places? How does one even start like a practice like that? How would you guide somebody to expand or grow or find another place to stamp their spiritual passport?
I'm gonna bring up Thurman again. I think it's listening to the sound of the genuine. Like what rings true and authentic in your spirit.
Yes.
And a lot of times we know what that is,
Mhm.
but I think that's kind of just been worked out of us in a lot of ways,
Yep.
or reasoned out of us in a lot of ways. But in order to find that, it takes some deep listening,
Yes.
you know, some
Yes.
deep listening, some questioning of yourself, asking who you are, what am I about, what am I for? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Um, and I think as we answer those questions, and sit with those questions, we get closer and closer to what that really is.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's God at the center of ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've mentioned Thurman obviously a good bit. Where would somebody start if they were to engage with his work?
Um, I would I think you to get a good sense of the man, I would start with his autobiography, with Head and Heart. I'm gonna start there. Um, I would start with there's a book of his meditations, prayers, poems, meditations of the heart as well. Um, and as well as Jesus and the Disinherited. So those three are kind of the ones that those were the and I say those, I'm a little biased because those were the first three that I encountered.
Yeah.
I had a friend who my first time encountering Thurman, his work, I was in the office of the chaplain,
Mm,
and I looked on his bookshelf, and those kind of books kind of just like stood out to me. Because I had been hearing the Thurman's name tossed around, and I was like, "Oh, those books." And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Make sure you read those." And those were With Head and Heart and Jesus and the Disinherited. I mentioned those books. I would tell that story in college, and around the time of graduation, my friend uh, decided to give me her old copies of those books. And
mm,
so, yeah, I would recommend With Head and Heart, Jesus and the Disinherited, and Meditations of the Heart.
love it. Any other any other authors or teachers that you would offer to the audience?
Yes, Dr. Barbara Holmes.
Mm,
Um, I would recommend her work, pretty much everything that she's written. Like it's amazing. Um, I would recommend um Father Thomas Keating. Uh I would recommend of course like Father Rohr.
yes.
I would recommend Malidoma Patrice Some. I would recommend Malidoma Patrice Some. He's like a Dagara chief.
Okay.
He passed away not too long ago, but he talks a lot about like ritual,
Wow.
and which is really really important.
Yes.
So yes, yes, yes,
Love it.
yes. So those are a few.
Love it. Cameron, what if you were to leave the world with a message, kind of an open-ended question here. We've talked a lot about centering prayer and listening. What's your message for the people, for the world? What's that core thing that God has put in you to share out as we close up the episode today? What are you what's imperative that you share with the world?
What's imperative that I share with the world? I think it's important to love God, love people,
Yep.
quite simply, and love yourself, you know. I hear he's a pastor here in Atlanta, and he also makes a lot of content. Christian Smith, he calls it I forgot what he calls it. My bad.
All good.
But yeah, love God, love people, love yourself. That's kind of what Jesus said was the whole of the law and the prophets.
Yep.
So I kind of hang my hat on that,
I love it.
Yeah.
Where can the people find you? Where can they connect with you? Is there anywhere to follow you or connect?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. I am two dope soul, the number two, DOPESOUL. Yeah, I'm also a spiritual director.
Hmm.
So, if you are in need of a spiritual director, you can holler at me. Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, things like that.
Sounds great. And of course, I'll link all that down below. Cameron, thanks for spending some time with me, man. Really meant a lot. I loved this, man. I learned a lot. I'm better because you exist, bro. And it's really an honor to
Oh
spend some
man,
time with
thank
you.
you, man. Likewise, likewise. Thank you,
Yeah,
Tyler. I appreciate everything, man.
yeah, my pleasure.